You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Real good. David Hall.
Back from ball games.
All right. Donnie Spiker.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Really good. Greg Hectus.
I'll be in and out.
All right. And Steve Thompson.
Hey guys, good to see y'all, and everybody, welcome to the iRacers Lounge. Come take a seat.
On the show this week, we'll look at the upcoming championship Coke race at Homestead, and iRacing crosses a huge milestone. Then, like a certain real-world driver, we'll race to our rigs with a look at an all-in-one ready-to-race simulator from Sim Coaches, and we'll look at the new 4090 GPUs put to the test.
And you guys can follow along with us on your mobile device or PC in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all these great topics we'll be talking about by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. So let's see you there.
Sim Coaches offers the realistic sim racing equipment you need to win more races online. It is designed for real racers. Hydraulic construction makes it feel just like the real thing. High quality construction, 100% leak proof, and lifetime warranty are the key features with these pedals, and they look absolutely amazing. Check out simcoaches.com and use the coupon code iRacersLounge to get 10% off your purchase. Simcoaches.com is your ticket to feel like you're actually sitting behind the wheel of a car. Drive harder and stay on the limit longer.
All right, actually, before we jump right into the topics, I was listening to the show last week. I think actually at work, I was catching up on it, even though I don't get to listen through it the whole way when I'm editing because I push to get it out. And yeah, y'all brought up a couple of subjects that I definitely wanted to chime in, and you guys wanted me to chime in. We'll start with the headlights, I suppose. Right? In actual IMSA, there are regulations about how many times you can flash somebody, and it's generally, for the most part, supposed to be an alert to lower class or lower speed classes that a higher class is approaching and about to make a move. All right. So if and I'm guilty of this, but if you get behind somebody and just start spamming it because you're mad at them, that is against IMSA rules. Now, that being said, I don't know if it's in the handbook or not specifically. And iRacing has established that they don't follow all the rules the real guys do, because you can pass below the double yellow line at Talladega, even though it's against the rules in every NASCAR race. So it's kind of a split. You know, it is kind of unsportsmanlike, but so is going below the line at Talladega.
Good point. Well said.
And
then what was the other one?
Yeah, protest system. It would be nice if it would be more transparent and more consistent. So I'll go ahead and come up with the one. I don't know if I ever spoke about this one directly. Probably it was not at the end of last NIS season, but the season before that. I got suspended from official racing for a week for pulling over to pee. Okay.
What?
Seriously, you can, in large tracks, you can pull over, and then you can get your spot back, right?
Under yellow. So you're saying, like, if at Homestead this week, if you needed to take a quick pee, under a yellow, you could stop on the front stretch down low, go do your business, and come back and resume your spot, right?
Yeah. So, okay, fair enough. There's nothing in the sporting code about doing that. All right. I appealed it and I said, "Hey, look, there was nothing indicating we can't do this. It's been a part of the game mechanic. People do it all the time for years. I won't do it again, but it shouldn't be a week suspension." Their reply to the email says, "We have been suspending everybody that does this without warning."
How did they know you did it?
Somebody sent it in. Obviously, it
Somebody
was a protest.
protested him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So their appeals board says nobody gets a warning. This is an automatic suspension. A week later, somebody else does the same thing. I send it in. I get the canned email. That guy is racing all week. So either the appeals board is full of shit, or one part of the iRacing protest group doesn't know what they're doing compared to the other hand, right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing. Because if the appeals board says there's no such thing as a warning on this, but then somebody just gets a warning, it's just it's just utter inconsistency. It falls right in line with how well NASCAR has been ruling things lately.
You have enough material for a YouTube video here, David, just like Dan Suzuki and Dave Camp.
Yeah, it's just fine. That should have been a warning. It should have been, hey, we don't want people doing this, but it is what it is.
Just gotta pee in your fire suit like they do in real life, Dave. That's all there is to it.
Pretty much, just I've got a box of Depends sitting over, I think I'm trying to get the sponsorship lined up from them.
So, now, if you didn't admit to it, though,
right.
you probably don't get caught, right?
I did not admit to it.
They just saw you pull off.
Now,
right?
and I'll tell you what, somebody did it last night in the NIS race, and I hadn't sent it in yet, but I guarantee you he'll just get a warning. And he actually was so late catching up to the field that he spun out right in front of the field, and I was wrecked the field under caution.
I sent in a story this week. I guess I didn't make it. I was looking down here for iRacing, for a racing catheter that you can get. It's pretty good. I looked it up because I had an issue this week too.
Well, I'm not really streaming anymore, but I tell you what, if I can get a sponsorship from Depends, I might just stream a race in Depends. How do y'all feel about that? Do you like that visual?
It has to just be Depends, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Are you going to get a crotch cam so we can see it or what?
No. Let's keep the cam on the sim coach's pedals.
All right. Well, enough of that goofiness. And I'll let me go ahead and caveat. I still love iRacing. I just don't like the protest system. Okay. So was I critical of it? Sure. But that's because I'm an iRacing fan. If I don't like iRacing anymore, I won't pay the subscription. It's just that simple. But I still do. So let's go ahead and jump into the topics, though. 5 billionth lap. iRacing hit this, and literally, like right about when I got home, I noticed the post was about 15 minutes old yesterday on Facebook.
Wow, that's something. 5 billion with a B.
I'm going to be naive here for a moment, but when did we hit 4 billion? That seemed was that within the last 2 years?
Oh yeah, definitely within 2 years. Probably about 12 to 15 months, something like that would be my guess. I'm not sure, but
If you plotted it on a curve, you got to think it's an exponentially add. It exponentially is going to go up because the more people we have, the more laps are run, and so that makes sense. That when is it going to be 6 billion? It's probably going to be even sooner than it was 4 billion.
Yeah, except that there was a huge jump in COVID, and some of that bubble has popped, but they're still growing.
iRacing posted on Facebook the top leaders in laps run, 5 billion laps, top 3 drivers from each discipline. And it's pretty interesting because the top oval drivers, as you probably have all raced with him at one time or another, was Joe Marks with 1,154,677 laps. He's the all-time leader.
That's wild.
It's for ovals.
Yeah, that was just for
right.
ovals.
So we've
And
got to
then
go.
Ray Barcombe second, and Max Harris, the late Max Harris, third.
That means we got to go look that all up.
How do we look this up? Where do we go?
It's on Facebook. It's on iRacing. You can look up iRacing on Facebook.
Okay.
On the script, guys, on the Instagram post, if you hit the little arrows to the right or left, you'll see all the different stats.
Well, I'm trying to look for our stats.
And so the most dirt oval was Dave Sousa with 494,000. Now think about that. Dirt oval, how long has that been around? Not a long time, and to to have that many laps, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the races aren't a whole lot of laps. I know the tracks are smaller in general, but it's not like you're turning 100-lap races. They're only 20, 25 laps, most of them.
Right. They're 30-minute races or so, right?
Practice. Does
Yeah.
practice laps count, or is it just official sessions?
Well, these say laps, so I don't
This
know.
is laps. Now, did you say that was oval racing? The guy had 1,000,000 laps, or just overall?
Top oval,
Oval.
drivers.
Okay, because the number one lap person, if you go to driver stats, is only at 500,000. It's Matt Coker.
Well,
So they might be including other
this must
laps.
be practice and other stuff besides actual race laps.
Possibly.
Yes. Yeah, some data they can collect on their end, probably.
Now, does that include hosted and everything, right? I would imagine it includes hosted races.
So another stat they threw up, completing 5 billion laps took 8,252 years of cumulative track time.
And they have
200 years.
Yeah, and they have a nice post that shows they're basically halfway to Voyager 1. Right, so we've driven halfway out of the solar system now.
Because that translates to 7.9 billion miles of racing.
Yeah, and on their next slide, so it does break it down. 45.5% official racing. It goes to qualifying, time trials, hosted in leagues, and practice sessions. So it does. Guess what data we're listening or reading here is just total laps turned in whatever capacity. And I think when we look up the driver stats, it's just going to give us official rankings, I believe.
Yeah. Top oval track, Charlotte.
Or there's this. It includes stats for active drivers only. That might be what's happening as well. Because I'm showing Matt Coker at like 550,000 laps basically. I have like 150,000.
Wow. And so, something else that iRacing did is they started a little contest after the post. They said, "Thank you to our incredible iRacing community for helping us reach this huge milestone. Tell us about your favorite lap using the hashtag 5 billion laps, and we'll select 5 random drivers to receive 100 iRacing credits each."
That's
So,
almost
pretty
like
cool.
our question. That's almost like our question favorite iRacing moment, right?
This is the hard one. I mean, to nail down a particular lap. Now we took a spin off of this on Twitter. The iRacers Lounge handle put up, "Congrats to the community. Hey, what track did you run your first laps at?" And I thought that was an interesting discussion.
Can you remember yours?
I didn't, but I looked it up actually, and I replied to the Twitter, and basically I told them this. It was the MX-5 Mazda Cup at Lime Rock. I started 6th. I finished 6th, but I had 29 incidents.
Nothing's changed.
Probably off track, right?
Now here's the
29.
question: did you practice before you ran, even back then?
I don't think so. I think I jumped right into races right from the beginning. I don't think I practiced squat.
Mine was the Legends at the Legends Charlotte Oval.
Now, back then, I remember when you got into a race, it was like a half hour before you would jump in, it would be a practice, and then 15 minutes before it would turn into a qualifying, and then it would eventually turn into a race or something like that. But I would wait till the last minute and jump in.
Mine was the Legends at South Austin. That was like part of the rotation of the Legends tracks back then when you first started in oval.
There's only 3 tracks that would run the whole season, basically, right? The Charlotte Roval, South Boston, and is it the Triangle type track? I don't remember what the third one was.
Stafford,
Concord.
Might be.
Yeah, mine was street stocks at USA.
Yeah, mine were street stocks at Charlotte.
Yeah, I liked learning. I miss the Legends. Because the street stocks don't make the guys run the short tracks as much. They put the street stocks out on Charlotte, and you're basically plate racing already as a rookie, and I don't think you should be. They should be running short tracks.
Yeah, I ran my first Legends race a couple weeks ago, and actually had a blast. Got the pole. I didn't have a blast. I got taken out in turn 1, lap 1. But other than that, it's the first time I ever sat in that car, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I think we've just about covered the 5 billionth lap. Congratulations to iRacing. Here's to 6 billion, right? We'll move on and to a horribly mistitled article that you guys were all talking about as a cheat, and it's not. Sean Cole from Stimpit, he posted this video, and I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, I did this, and I didn't do it as I was thinking of an exploit. Basically, I've mostly have run sports cars and I have the clutch configured on my Formula wheel to basically do a kind of the standing start double clutch. So all of my sports cars and even when I'm in Formula cars and Indy cars, I just always run off the hand clutch. And I had never even thought about putting it back to the foot clutch. And running in the major series, they had us run the Lotus 49, and you had to clutch to get it to shift. It wouldn't slam shift like any of the modern sports cars or Indy cars would do. And I just kind of figured out real quick that I could just pull the clutch and the shift in the same hand, and boom, and it works out for pretty good timing. And then it's kind of funny if you spend a lot of laps running in the 49 and then you go back to a car, you don't have to clutch, you have to kind of untrain yourself to do that again.
Yeah, so Sean Cole's video basically details exactly what you're talking about, where he does this kind of rolling of his fingers every time he shifts, where his lower fingers hit the clutch just a moment before he hits the shifter with his upper fingers. And so he kind of rolls his fingers every time he shifts across these 2 paddles on the back of his wheel, and it works for him because it blips the clutch just before he hits the shifter. And so he's basically saying, hey, it's a cheat if you can, if you have a wheel like this and you can shift in this manner. What you do is turn off all the shifting aid to none, and you just do it where you're rolling your hand or across the paddles like that.
Yeah, and the reason this is kind of important is auto clutch is the enemy of speed. The AI just does not clutch as fast or efficiently as humans do, whether it's by design or it just happens to be that way. Going all the way back to the MX-5, I remember when I decided to start really trying the road side again, and I was in the MX-5, there's I remember people telling me just randomly in the lobby, you need to turn all the aids off except for anti-stall and go to the 5-speed sequential, or is it 6-speed? I don't remember. And you'll be faster that way. And so do your best if you are at all physically able to run with clutching, whether it's by foot or hand.
Is this what some F1 guys get accused of sometimes? Because you'll see some other drivers from other teams try to sneak a peek behind their wheel. Is that what they're looking for? I'll be honest, the Formula wheels are completely foreign to me. I have no idea what the heck's going on there.
Well, I mean, if on a modern F1 or Indy car, the clutch is in the hand for the real cars. So, they have both pedals work on in sync, and what you do is if you pull both pedals back and then release one of them, it moves the clutch to wherever you set the bite point, and you have to set it for a different percentage depending on the car, and then it's sitting right. Then you're holding one clutch down and it's sitting right on the bite point, and you can launch, and that's what the real guys do.
I'm gonna have to try this method because when I ride my F2000 car, I'm in blip. I have blip on. Now I've tried it with blip off, like with none, but the driver is the problem then. I just don't I don't know where the shift points are exactly, and I'm actually slower than I am with the blip on. So I think I'm going to try this method that Sean Cole has described here and switch it back off and just see how it works.
Yeah, it'll definitely help. All right. Well, Steve, what is the have you ever topic we got coming up here?
Yeah, Philip McCandis gained 7 spots on the final turn to win the Yankee 600 in a wild finish. So they posted on Twitter, have you ever? And IB Butler gets spun on the white flag by Aschilus.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's right.
Sending the field in disarray through 3 and 4 through fire and flames. At Ultra Racing, Phil comes out of the smoke to win the Yankee 600 presented by at BKCFF. I watched this in the 80. It looks like the 87 cars, and it's a pretty wild video.
And the pass happens. The actual last pass happens because in all the chaos, 2 cars are almost there and they get into each other, and the pass is within like 200, 300 feet.
Well,
yes. Essentially, that green and orange car kind of ruined it for everybody. He goes up and hits the leader, then chaos ensues behind. Looks like that winner wins by what, a bumper at the line?
That was 100 feet.
That's my problem with this. I mean, the guy drove it in there, trying to wreck the leader. I mean, you could tell he overdrove the corner. It was the last, lap. He was trying to wreck the guy to win, and he got to him and he hit him, and sure enough, they all wreck. And I just found it kind of distasteless that they even posted. I mean, it is a charity race for Brad Keselowski's, foundation, but still.
I gotta kind of agree with you, Mike. If I was the leader, that was a terrible move to try to make the pass. The guy going into turn 3 was 4-5 car lengths behind him, and just send it without any regards for trying to make the corner. All he was just trying to do is wipe the guy out if he was in the way. And I didn't particularly think it was a very good. I mean, it was interesting to see all these cars flying around and see this guy McCandless come from nowhere to win the thing. It was kind of interesting, but the catalyst for this wreck was just a terrible move. I mean, just awful. I would have been so angry if I was the leader of that race and got taken out in a manner like that. It just would have rubbed me totally raw.
Yeah, that guy is Sean Butler. I've raced with him in the past, and he's well known. He was a gentleman, to say the least, on Twitter after the fact, because a lot of people were calling this out as dirty racing. But he did not throw the other guy under the bus, and he was a class act and whatnot. Regardless, he said it was still a good event, and anything they can do to help the charity, I guess.
That commentary was pretty wild.
Maybe that's what the headline means. Have you ever ? Wreck somebody?
Wreck the hell out of somebody. Yeah.
Wreck the dog food out of somebody.
Yeah, and not even get the win out of it. Just wreck yourself in the process. That should be a 1-week suspension right there.
Well, have you ever actually been able to use a cone to take another driver out? What do you think, Donnie?
Not yet, but it looks like we can. So I guess we can start mapping all our buttons to launch some cones. Max, Mr. Excitement Molina shows how to collect and fire off a traffic cone. Now, watching this video, it looks perfectly intentional. Like he goes to collect the cone with the front wing of his Formula car here, and then he ejects it right to the right of himself into the car in front of him, to the front and to the right of him. Do we know at all if this is actually what happened?
It looks like that cone ought to be red instead of green because that was a heat seeker.
Yeah,
Hey, Tony.
the tweet just says it's not top 10 worthy. I don't know if it was intentional or not. I was in a practice where I actually was able to drag one around, I think at Vegas, and was able to run like 10 laps with, and it just got stuck in the car completely. And it was funny because it would never regenerate. So the blue cone was completely missing for that whole time.
Well, this cone, he shoots it and then gets it back, and then the car just hits the wall and falls behind him. So either this is some incredible timing on glitching, or they found a way to do something fun.
It's net. I think it's net code. I think the cone they thought was part of the car.
Well, you run 5 billion laps and you have a high chance of something weird happening.
It's crazy. Like the cone is on the left wheel, the left front wheel kind of stuck in there behind the wing. But when it leaves the car as he's going around the other car, it just kind of, invisibly goes through the cone and the wheel and everything and shoots at that other car and hits it hard enough right in the center of the side, pod to knock it right into the wall and destroy it.
It looked like something from Mario Kart where you're shooting those turtles at the other cars.
Exactly. And then it comes right back to you. Neat video. Talking about neat videos, how about this next one? Brian, you got this one.
Yeah, this came from Twitter page from overtake.gg. So this is a video of real life driver Jeff Chiassi. He's a Brazilian Porsche GT3 driver, and he was in the middle of a real life GT3 race, and it was in Brazil, and he finished up his race, hopped out of his car, and basically sprinted to the garage area where he had his rig set up so he could hop in it in order to make his Porsche Super Cup Series contender race. So it was amazing. The cameras were following him. They're doing a little commentary as he's running to his sim rig, and they're like, commentating. He's got his rig right here. He's ready to jump in to catch his race. He didn't want to miss it. It was really cool to see. It goes to show you how important it is to some of these guys to make sure they hit their starts in the sim rig, by jumping out of your car, having your rig set up right there at the track, and just go right to it. It was really neat to see.
I wonder who pays them more, the real team or the sim team. I wonder if the real owner's like, where's this guy running off to? Oh, to go play a video game.
Well, I got the impression at the beginning of the video that the race is still going on. Yet this guy's jumped out of the car and he's running to the sim. Maybe it's one of those races where they switch drivers in the same car, But pretty cool to see.
It's actually really cool.
I mean, he's like sweating. He's like, taking out his little earpieces and he trying to get all the sweat off, and his head sock, and he has to change out of his racing shoes real quick, and he's already got the sim launched, like it's ready for him to get in, like a friend set it up for him.
Yeah, Mike, I think you're right, because as he's running, you can hear the car still racing in the background. So I bet you it's a multi-driver deal where he just ended his stint just in time to, it's like, guys, I got to finish my stint in 10 minutes and 2 laps because I got to hit my race on iRacing real quick.
That's actually has to run a decent amount to get to the rig from where he parked the car, or where he got out of the car, I should say.
Yeah, and it's like he was sprinting. It's like he's in a hurry to get there, and yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I love Brazilians and their passion for motorsports. I love it.
Somebody mentioned it when we first started this one, but it's just awesome to see he values that Porsche Cup so much that he's willing to sprint across the paddock after getting out of a real car to go hop into a sim rig on iRacing. It's awesome.
Well, the next topic is right in the same venue or realm, basically. And it's even got his own tweet, Anthony Alfredo. It says Sim to Reality. And it basically is showing a picture of the real life car riding the wall at Miami and the iRacing car riding it. And the only way you can really tell the difference is that there's no tire marks on the wall in the iRacing version.
Yeah, I ran a B Open race this morning, and I cannot do this. Even if I try, I'm sure if I practice forever, I could maybe get it. But this always impresses me. I think out of the most, these oval guys is riding the wall, especially at this track, and how close they can get to that cushion and create that cushion. It's just super impressive. But the shot alone and how well it is, it's spectacular.
Yeah,
So-
you can make it work in 1 and 2 really pretty easy. It's not very effective in 3 and 4, at least in the A car. It hasn't been. I've been able to go up there when I needed to make passes, but this is something that just always seems to happen in most of the tracks. If when you're really running the high line, it really just burns the tires up more.
So, what do you guys think? I mean, doing this really, really worked in the Gen 6 car. Does it work in the new car, the next gen?
We had a guy that was making it work, especially early on in the runs last night. And he would just get insane runs. Not only would he get insane runs, he could drive in actually deeper. So you see him drive in deeper. He kind of zipped past you if you were running the low line. Then you would catch him because you're running the low line. But then he would just launch off there because he's actually staying at the higher speed in this particular case, especially at Miami, because it's these long sweeping corners instead of your kind of tri-oval type corners.
The drive in is super impressive because I don't understand how they drive in so deep, so high, and not hit the damn wall. It's awesome to see. But I was talking with Mike today. We were running the NIS race, and I don't know what the damage is like, if we have that progressive damage yet. But there was one particular car. I mean, he was several laps down, but he was just pounding the wall. Maybe every other lap, he was a lapper, and not really slowing down for that much. I'm just curious how much you're allowed to hit. I get that the cars are a tank, the new Cup cars, but it seems a little excessive. They're allowed to hit the wall.
Well, if it looks like he's hitting it, or if it looks like he's riding it, like if he's not lifting off the gas while he's hitting the wall, that is actually an exploit.
No, I had that in the dirt Bristol race a couple years ago in the trucks. No, this guy was just would hit the wall and bounce back off, and then next turn hit the wall, bounce back off.
Yeah, last night I went in high one time, just a little too high, and went all the way up to the wall and slapped it. I think it was 12 seconds damage, but I did get off the gas because I was already off the gas, trying not to hit the wall to begin with.
Did you get any
I've
incident
had-
points?
I don't think so. I think it was a 0x.
I
That's right,
remember
man.
oh, sorry, Steve. I remember in Gen 6 being able to rip the fence, as I call it, with the right set, where you could enter at full speed and just barely burp that throttle, and you're right back into it. I mean, that's how it was, and I can't do that in this car, or at least this season. I don't know if it's a set or me or what, but I can't do it. So I did see some people doing it in the races this week, but I can't.
Yeah, I pretty much made most of my passes in where I'm at. Most of the guys are running the bottom, so I ran the top in 1 and 2. That's where I made all my passes last night.
It's nice if you
I mean-
have a set where you can go both directions instead of being stuck only running high or only running low, where you can kind of get around either way.
Yeah, the set last night was, I mean, I could run anywhere on the track. It was really nice.
So, Steve, I mean, we were talking about strategies of how to actually enter at the top and run that top line. I mean, what was working for you? I think I was dragging the brake and the throttle at the same time, at least until the car got turned.
I was lifting just before the actual turn, just a little bit, and then I dragged the brake, and then about halfway through, the car would want to ride up even more toward the wall, and then get in the throttle, almost like right full on to get it to rotate, and then stayed right next to the wall all the way off.
I would lift way early, but only lift to 80% throttle and basically stay 80% throttled almost the whole corner.
That's the thing, never get completely out of the gas. You never lower than 80%, right?
Yeah, because that does change not only does it keep your momentum up, but when you completely go off the gas, it completely changes the weight balance of the car.
Did you guys shift the Cup car at all? I didn't even think to ask that.
Not here.
I heard somebody ask that today. I turned the driver chat back on. for the first time in forever. And somebody was asking if we're shifting. Then I thought, oh crap, should we be shifting? But I never did.
There's even some places where some people like to shift where I just don't like to because it adds, I think sometimes just the process of shifting gives up the time that you might be saving.
It'll be interesting to watch this Sunday, the real race, because I've heard on a couple shows that doing testing here with the new car, that running the wall is not always the fastest way to go around anymore. So it might be a different race this year than we're used to.
And
Yeah, but they didn't have rubber buildup during testing either. Not like they would have in a race. That's when they move up to the wall when all the rubber is built up.
And I'm curious if they try how fragile those toe links are, if they just bump the wall and anybody's going to take that risk.
Donnie, I think I was telling you today in the race, stay low to middle for the first 20 and then go up to the top after the tires are worn, like 20 or more laps.
Yeah, I'm with Steve though. I ran the middle for the most part, but when you needed to get around somebody, and like Dave was saying, the set was pretty good. You can go left. You want to go inside on somebody, you could. And if you needed to pass them on the outside, you could do it as well.
I wouldn't recommend just rim riding just to rim ride though, because it does burn up more of the tire.
Yeah, 100%. It did that in the B car too. Running the top line the whole race was a bad choice.
All right, Mike, it's Coke preview time.
Yeah, it sure is. We got a big race coming up, a live race in person for 4 of the championship contenders. They're going to be at the NASCAR Hall of Fame next week to race in person for the championship. We got a couple preview videos from 2 of the drivers, Steven Wilson, Graham Bolin. Just a short video talking about what they think going into the race. Now, I put up in the chat, guys, I feel like Graham Bolin has an advantage going into this race of the 4 because he also raced earlier in the year live at the Charlotte esports arena thing they have. I forget the name of it. Charlotte GG, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I just having that audience, the noise, the crowd, the atmosphere, it's going to be shocking, I think, to the other 3 guys for the first time, perhaps.
Isn't Shane Wilson, isn't he the only one that's able to bring his rig too? The other 3, there's 3 guys that are having to use rigs they've never driven in before, and 1 guy, I think it might be Shane Wilson, that's bringing his own rig.
Yeah, I haven't heard about who's bringing what rig.
That's just wild that they would drive in another rig, in my opinion. I don't know. My personal opinion would be uncomfortable.
I agree with you, Donnie. I don't think I would do it if I was racing in a race of this magnitude to go in with some, unfamiliarity with the equipment. I don't think I would do that.
Unless they are getting effectively the same equipment, except for maybe the 80/20. If they're getting the same set of pedals, the same wheel, the same, then it might be doable.
It probably costs $20,000 to get your rig shipped, Brian.
I don't know. I think you do it pretty easy.
Just pop it on a trailer, put
it on the U-Haul trailer.
I can't get mine out of the house without taking it apart.
I just think about what a nightmare it would be just to try to pack it up to get it out of the house. Oh my God, I'd have to take it all apart.
I think mine could actually slip through, but boy, that sucker's heavy. So moving it down the stairs.
Yeah, luckily mine's in the basement, and I have a big walkout exit. And it's sitting on a platform. So all I had to do is some casters under it. I could probably wheel it out without too much trouble.
Dale Jr. will be there to present the trophy that he helped design. On his podcast this week, he detailed a little bit more that it's basically a replica of the old Winston Cup trophy. Steve Myers tweeted that Tim Clark from NASCAR had a big hand in in coming up with this trophy idea and whatnot. So congratulations again to Dale
All right, this
Jr.
last question comes from
For being named, as the honorary trophy guy or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's a beauty.
That is a seriously badass trophy. I wasn't following racing back in the Winston series, and this is obviously heavily influenced. It was when they were talking about it, I was like, man, I almost pulled over just so I could take a peek at this trophy because they were just kind of going over it. So with so much just gratitude, they're so thankful they could get it done this way. But being able to see it, that is a serious trophy.
Now, if you can imagine the old Winston Cup
Get out.
trophy in your mind and that big red plaque where it says Winston, well, that's been replaced with a red plaque that says Dale Earnhardt Jr., so it really looks good. It really got that same look and feel as the old trophy. Brings back memories for me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember that transition from the Winston Cup trophy to, I believe it was Nextel, the first iteration. And I was 20 at the time, 2021. And I just remember thinking, what the heck are we doing? This was such a classic looking trophy. And then we went to what they went to 20 years ago.
Some gold wavy thing.
Even though that, was it the Monster one that was really nice, or the current one? I like the current one with all the tracks. But back on this, in the video, they talk about it, and Dale's co-host is surprised on the amount that the winner gets for winning the Coke Series, and I just find it odd that somebody so close to Dale is still so surprised with iRacing most of the time.
I think the only time they talk about it is on the show. I don't think they go ahead and they have so many other things to cover when they're preparing for the show that's probably the only time they actually get to have a conversation about it. It's pretty wild. Now, you like it because it's the classic look, because it's the look that when all this stuff was kind of new to you. I actually talk about that in with my students all the time about how every generation is kind of stuck on their own music of their youth and say nobody else is as good as that stuff. And the truth is, music has been the same and being recycled really for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They were borrowing stuff from the Greeks when they were, the Roman gods were basically stolen from the Greeks, right? The recycling of culture is always happening. And so the same thing happens with the trophy. The stuff that was there when you were younger is always going to have a more nostalgic feeling to you, because that was what was around when you were young and it was all new.
He has Mike Davis stand up next to it so you can see how big it is. Okay, and that's a thing with old racing trophies. I mean, the bigger the better. I've been to in Scottsdale, Arizona. Roger Penske has a dealership, but he has a museum as well in the middle of the dealership. And in that museum, you can see some amazing Indy 500 winning cars and whatnot. Rusty Wallace's, Bristol winning car, but also the Bristol Trophy is one of the biggest trophies I've ever seen. It might be the biggest, but he's got one on a pedestal there that's 6 foot tall or something. It's the craziest thing. It's a big cup, but it's amazing just because of the size of it.
Yeah, the sizes of all the racing trophies are pretty cool. The Mark Martin has his museum in Batesville, and I've been there a few times, and it's pretty neat as well. He's got a lot of trophies in there, and a lot of the older cars that he ran.
A lot of the Formula One race trophies are pretty darn disappointing. Some are cool, but some are just like, not that impressive.
Best trophy in racing, though, is the grandfather clock.
Dover, Delaware.
No, it's the giant
Martinsville.
lobster in New Hampshire.
Wow.
We hear you eating, Brian. We know you want lobster.
I didn't expect the disagreement
You're
on
right.
this one.
I would say more. Well, where do you put 3 or 4 grandfather clocks? The grandfather clock is pretty cool.
Oh, you give the other ones away when you win multiples. Or you put it in your summer house down in the Keys, right?
Yeah, right. If you're winning that many races, you've probably got a couple of houses.
The Dover Trophy is pretty cool, though.
All right. As the season's winding down, we have one remaining special event coming up. It is the 2022 Crandon Championship. It's in the Pro Fours, right? Looks like it's going to be going on from October 9th to the 21st. There's going to be 2 time slots. They have 1 GMT and 1500 GMT. And then also another one on 1 GMT on the 22nd. So there's actually 3 total time slots. 22nd and 23rd, there's going to be super sessions that are going to take the top 20 in overall points from the race week. All right. And the super session time slots are Saturday, October 22nd at 1500 Zulu and Sunday, October 23rd at 100. And I remember you guys talking about this last time and asking, well, how would they would determine which one is the winner? And it's probably going to be just like when you choose your 4 time slots in Le Mans, right? You've got 4 top split winners. There's not really any way to compare them because they're fighting different fields. Yeah.
That's almost over, so you can still get in tonight and participate this weekend. I'll take a winter iRacing NASCAR series. It has been announced again. I think this is the 2nd year. Anyway, it's the 87 cars, and they're going to run 5 time slots a week in IS style. Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 5 a.m. Eastern, Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Now that's fixed. They're also running open, and those are going to be Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a nice replacement for the regular NIS race. Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
You guys plan on running this?
Yeah, I probably will. Either Wednesday or Friday night.
Well, you do. Okay, so the Open.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is you got to figure out a set. But I like the time slot in the day.
Other than running our Invite Winter Series, I tend to just play around in the sports cars and take a break from the open set racing on the oval side.
Yeah, so this is a 13-week season. They have some of the legacy tracks in here, like the Legacy Daytona, Legacy Phoenix. They have Watkins Glen Classic, right? Is that without the bus stop?
It's without the bus stop, and I think it actually has the boot, or there may be a classic without the boot as well. But yeah, both of the classic lineups.
It's without yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the bus stop, no bus stop, and no boot, which would be crazy. That getting into that carousel is going to be crazy with those 87 cars.
Yeah, that's a steep turn. The Euro Sprint Series runs the classic boot a lot, where there's no bus stop, so you go into the carousel at almost 300 kilometers an hour. Sorry, when I run that car, I'm in metric, and it's pretty fast, but it's not as sharp of a carousel when you run the boot.
Yeah, I think if I recall last time, I couldn't do it because of the set problem. So hopefully I can figure out sets and that are decent, because you don't want to be in these open. You'll get slaughtered if you don't have a good set.
I'll run the Open, Mike. I'll have an option for a set I'll throw into our team files, and if they're not good, they're not good. Just use them if they are.
So it's effectively going to be running the same time slots as NIS runs, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right, because the Monday is actually Sunday night, or GMT.
I'm looking at the fixed slots, and as a West Coaster, as a person who works till Monday through Friday, gets home at 4, has family obligations, eats dinner, I find a hard time slot to find a fixed race in. Being on the West Coast seems pretty difficult.
Sunday night for me.
Yeah, just forget the fixed races and run A opens.
Yeah. I think that's why I only run open, is because I can't do a fixed time slot.
I really like the 87 car, so I'm going to try to get in on this. We'll see.
The 87s actually might be one of those things that I might run fixed because if I just don't want to hassle with doing the setups. Most of the time, the only time I like fixed is when you're in a series that's constantly changing cars or something and just doing a bunch of crazy uh, combinations, and that's when fixed setups are nice.
And shorter races.
Yeah.
All right, podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers during the race so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Check us out on Discord and our new website at iRacersLounge.com. Don't forget, we're in regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network and the Sim Racing channel on Roku TV.
All right, since you kind of ninja'd in on us, welcome back to the show, Tony. You want to pick up the fantasy report?
Yeah, thanks, guys. It has been a while, and I figured I had to come back this week, just sneak in for a little bit because I actually got a top 5, and I don't know if that's even happened this season. It has been an absolute shit show on my part. We got a couple of Tifosi guys representing at Las Vegas. Tyler Williamson, he claimed second place, and
You're
I thought there
third.
was, yeah. Tony Rochette, he got 7th place, and so three Tifosi guys in the top 10 for Las Vegas. I mean, it doesn't help us in the overall picture. Looks like Greg's doing a good job sitting just outside of the top 10 for the overall in 11th place.
So, would you say it's safe to say, with the running joke that we have in the chat all the time, that you're no longer the fantasy king?
Well, that depends. See, I'm leading another fantasy one that I'm in, but it's we don't get to pick every week like this one here. But so I'm actually in the running for some money over there. But no, I can relinquish the fantasy, quote unquote king title this year because I certainly don't deserve it.
Greg was 28th. I was 30th. Donnie, 32nd. Steve Llewellyn, 34th. Bobby Jonas, 35th.
Yeah, I missed picks 2 weeks in a row. Mailed it in. Looking forward to February, I guess.
I didn't even miss pick. I actually went through and picked somebody.
Don't you still have Kurt on your team? I think Mike's
No,
going
I
to have
haven't
Kurt on
done
his
that.
team next year.
You haven't run out of picks for him
Kurt
yet?
Busch.
He's picking up Bubba next week to add them to the roster.
Speaking of Bubba, do y'all want to put y'all's 2 cents on that, or y'all just kind of let the other shows cover that guy?
I thought a
He
week
should have been
was...
suspended 2 weeks.
I didn't get to really talk about Byron. I thought Byron should have been suspended too. But I do want to caution hypocrisy on in the fines and suspensions on both cases. If they're going to suspend these guys, I don't want to see any footage from the incident in any promotional video.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I
That
agree.
is a good
All
point,
the
Dave.
media's eating it up.
No, it's a great point. I wish they could just draw a line and actually come out and say it, and say no more right hooking, no more, and just say it, no more. And that's what you're going to get suspended for. I mean, what Byron did to Hamlin, it was still quick. It was at speed a little bit, but any right hooking guy is at speed is, I don't know. It's probably the most dangerous thing you can do.
Yeah, in both cases though, they've messed with playoff drivers, and one is more dangerous, but in both cases, I agree with Bobby. Wrecking is wrecking, if whether it's Martinsville or Pocono.
I don't know how they can just give him one weekend off when a crew chief gets 4 weeks off for a loose tire. I still don't get that, especially him walking across the track, pushing the the NASCAR official not going to the ambulance, all those things. I mean, I think they should have nailed him to the wall.
If you
Exactly. That's why it's 2 weeks.
if you go to the football, your right tackle is going to get punished more for certain activities than your quarterback. All right, the star is always allowed to get away with more. That's the world of sports.
I was gonna go to
He's
the
a
same
star?
spot, Steve.
The driver is the star. The drivers drive the sport.
Plus, it was a bad look when he's pushing little Larson around.
Yeah, and he's not fighting back or nothing. Yeah, that was not a good look.
Part of me
Little
thought,
Larson.
part of me thought Larson maybe, I don't want to say concussed or nothing, but part of me thought maybe he was a little shaken up in the incident because he had no reaction whatsoever when he was getting pushed around. And I thought, and I was curious, like, what happens if he would have taken that helmet and just cracked him across the face with it? What happens to Larson at that point? Do we have criminal charges now?
Nothing good. Larson's obviously got some pretty good self-control because that's what he probably should have done. I'm sure any one of us would have done the same thing, but he didn't do that. And good on him because he's gonna look coming out like just shining out of that deal. Whereas Bubba's he's not gonna live this one down for a really long time.
Something I also thought watching Bubba walk to the scene and he's in front of the grandstands, part of me is like, oh, they're going to have a fight here. It's going to be this big thing. It's going to be super popular, kind of like 1979. And then when nothing happens on the other part and it just makes Bubba look like a complete buffoon, then I thought, oh, this looks terrible. But in my mind, I thought, is something crazy going to happen right now? Even though it did.
Well, that's equally as big of a safety issue because they made a rule that you're not supposed to leave the car, right? Because of what happened with Tony Stewart. And he didn't follow that. But again, with NASCAR officiating, they let somebody else get away with it. So now do they coming down on him for it or not?
Some show brought up Kurt Busch as being maybe a steward going forward. And I don't know if we have any drivers at all or any former prominent team members that are officials, but it is so wild how so inconsistent a officiating body can be.
I've lost a little faith in him this year. I'm a huge NASCAR fan, and for the first time I have never bought into almost any of the black helicopter thing conspiracies, but this doesn't look kind of black helicopter. This looks just lacking a better word, incompetent.
It's not that much of a mystery, guys. It's down to one guy, David Hoots.
Yeah, it's very true.
When David Hoots was there, everything worked great. When he wasn't, it's gone to shit, and that's the truth.
It just seems
Tony,
like something every week.
Yeah, Tony, I think you're onto something. But wow, Larson really had some self-control because I put myself in his shoes, and if Bubba Wallace is getting in my face and pushing me backwards, like somebody said, he's going to get a helmet in his face. I'm going to throw a punch. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to, whimper off like little Larson did.
That's why I thought maybe Larson was like not all there at the moment. Like he was like a little shocked at what was happening.
I think Larson's
I don't know.
afraid of his own wife, so.
I don't know. I think Larson at that point is in a no-win position. I don't think he's got really good options at that point. Nothing's going to come out looking good on his end if he engages or not.
He made the right move. That's right, which was a non-move.
And this has always been something I found interesting about NASCAR and competitive motorsports. What other sport is it where you can purposely destroy somebody's property of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, just on a whim, just because you got upset? I mean, you purposely destroyed his car. I mean, if you did that on the road, you'd be getting arrested. And your insurance, you get your insurance canceled and all kinds of fun stuff. But NASCAR's perfectly fine. Who cares?
Take a chainsaw to the goalpost if you don't like a referee call.
It's that attitude. We got to let the boys have at it. I don't know. That's always sat weird with me. I mean, I guess we can do some bump and runs, have some fun with it, but I don't know. Intentionally right hooking people, it's crazy.
Well, they wanted to just try to get out of where they had to make judgment calls, but then Carl Edwards started hooking Brad Keselowski every chance he could get, to the point where it was becoming really dangerous.
Yeah, that's
I took
bleeding over.
I took this incident akin to was when Bubba Wallace was in the iRacing Invitational and he got dumped or something, and he just jumped out of the car and said "F
Rage
it"
quit.
and just
Yeah,
walked away, rage quit. This is rage quitting. He gets shoved to the wall. He's
you're right.
pissed off. He rage quits by dumping Larson. And he not only dumps him, but destroys his car too. And his car was still good.
And Christopher
Yeah,
Bell's.
Josh Berry's car won the race after a similar contact the day before. That wasn't the end of the race for him. He just lost control.
Josh
Dude
Berry's
wins.
awesome.
Dude wins one race and thinks he's Martin Truex and just expects everybody to get out of his way now.
Idle idea, rage quit.
Part of the problem where Bubba got in trouble was the big topic over the past month has been safety. These cars are hurting drivers. People are getting hurt, in ways that they wouldn't normally have gotten hurt in the other cars, and to have somebody wreck somebody at 185 miles an hour, you can't just sweep that under the rug when you're trying to portray your sport as being safe to the drivers, and you're trying to get past this part of your sport. You don't want it to be known as people are getting hurt on a regular basis out there.
Were you guys surprised Dale Jr. Thought he wouldn't get suspended?
Well, they were kind of basing that on what happened with Byron in a way, right? Maybe.
Yeah, this is unprecedented, as Freddie Kraft said, for them to do this.
Well, no, they suspended Kyle Busch when he interfered with the truck playoff race.
And Kenseth.
So it's not completely unprecedented. It's just
That's
not
true.
consistent. Sometimes they're like boys have at it. Sometimes they're not.
Well, let's not forget, Tony. We still got to go over the overall leaders, right? We haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we got Louder Racing still in first place, and he's been there a bit. Oh Baby 44, Scotty Boy, Ray J, and last year's champion Rez Dog rounds out the top 5.
Now, are we talking about overall or playoff?
Oh no, I'm thinking it's just overall.
Yeah, that's overall.
Oh, I see.
Never even thought to look up just the playoff standings.
Yeah, so there is a playoff league standings. And it's a little bit different lineup. You got iRace and Mason leading there. Louder Racing, Scotty Boy in third. I'm Not a Professional fourth. Oh Baby 44 fifth. You're not doing so well in the playoff standings, guys.
How far out of the top 10 are we?
The first team member I see is Tyler in 16th.
Ouch.
But anyway, I wanted to peek at it, but we talked about, I think, at the beginning of the year that we would stick to the overall. Hardware, software.
Beat you to it.
Echo.
Hardware
Is
software
brought to you
is-
by.
You got it. I'll edit this little
Okay.
chunk out.
Brought to you by Supreme 3D Printing.
No,
Are you
no,
looking
no.
for
Start
that
over.
next sim?
Start over. Say hardware, software, and the whole thing. This is behind the scenes, guys that are watching live.
Hardware software brought to you by Supreme 3D Printing. Are you looking for that next sim rig upgrade, or maybe your man cave needs a little more style, or is your wife wanting to redecorate your home? Well, we here at Supreme 3D Printing have you covered. We create and print tons of different and useful items that is sure to fit everyone's style and budget. If you don't see what you're needing, then feel free to contact us for your needed item. Check us out at Etsy, Supreme 3D Printing.
I want to do this like the announcers would do, but my voice has been completely fried all of marching season. So I'm just going to ask, are you ready to rumble? And it's Sim 3D that's offering a pedal rumble mobile kit. Donnie, was this the one you were talking to me about in chat a couple of weeks ago or so?
Oh, this is Steve's.
Yeah,
I may
I've
have
got
asked
'em.
you. Yeah.
I've actually, I've got a little review that I did on them. I ordered these and got them last week. I installed them. They're from Sim 3D. They're pedal rumble kit, motor kits. And when you order them, you can select any type pedal you have. They fit over 28 different pedal types, and they custom print the actual motor mounts for each type of the 28 sets of pedals that they make. You can get they come with pedal rumble motors mounts for the throttle, brake, and the clutch if you've got clutch. It includes one Sim 3D Rumble 4-channel control box that has the sound card in it, a braided connector cable that goes between the box and the motors, a USB cable, and if you're in the United States or North America, you have to order your own power adapter. When you go to order, you can tell them that there's a check box that you're in North America. It's about $10 on Amazon. They tell you what type to get also. Installation was simple. I've got the HPP JBV pedals. I did have to use longer bolts to mount them. On the HPP pedals, you remove the pedal plates and then slip the motor mounts over the pedal arms and then reattach the pedal plates. The rumble mounts have existing holes that match up to the pedal plates. Once I had the Sim 3D Rumble motor kit installed, I followed the YouTube video to install them into SimHub. The installation went flawless. I tested them. They worked great. I used wheel slip on the throttle and then brake lock on the brake and shifting on the clutch. The feedback was amazing, better than all the 4 butt kicker LFEs I have, the 4 butt kicker mini LFEs, the 2 butt kicker gamers, and the 4 Dayton, Ohio mini bucks that I have mounted on my AccuForce G5 seat. The Sim 3D pedal rumble kit also works with SRS, which is Sim Racing Studio, which I use for my SFX 100 motion rig, and I also use their motion compensation for my VR headset with that. So you do have to purchase a license for $24.99 to use them on the SRS software. There's a special plugin that they made for the Sim 3D pedals. Installation through Sim Racing Studio was flawless. You just want to make sure that you turn off the 3D motors in SimHub under the Shake It motors before you configure it for Sim Racing Studio. I found the Sim 3D pedal rumble kit worked better in Sim Racing Studio for some reason. The data seems better. The feedback is better in Sim Racers Hub than it is on SimHub, especially for the wheel slip for some reason. I don't know. The data curves seem better. A lot of times on oval tracks with my rig, I'll get way too much vibration even going down the front stretch. I've got a switch that I can turn down, but I can still kind of feel it. And for some reason with the SRS software, it's actually better. I do have a switch hooked up to it too, and I could adjust it. But last night it felt really, really good on Homestead. So the pros on it, I think it's the best feedback of any vibration I've used. It's easy to install. Great communication with the owner of Sim 3D, Calvin Dent, through his Discord channel, and had really high quality parts, and the fit was flawless. The only con I had was the delivery time. I ordered them back in May, but as we all know, everything is still hard to get, and Calvin the owner was always upfront with the expected time delivery. So, anyways, I highly recommend them. You can go to www.sim-3d.co.uk to order those, and then you can go to simracingstudio.com for that software, and of course simhub-.com if you want to use SimHub.
So, Steve, the feeling that is going into the throttle is specifically what? What are you grabbing from the audio, or what feeling do you get?
I'm getting a wheel slip. So as I get into the throttle,
Okay.
especially last night, on a slick track, I mean, you could really regulate the throttle pedal and feel when it was going to start slipping and break loose. I've worked a lot with SimHub on my with all my vibration, and I don't get that same type of feel through my rig that I did through my feet. I mean, it was pretty amazing. Really nice, and the wheel lock works really good too as you're coming into the pits. You come in fast and you can really feel the wheel lock come through the brake pedal.
And these like literally bolt onto the back of the brakes. And I noticed on the website, they literally have a list of almost every brake manufacturer out there, including even my old brakes that are no longer for sale. And you just tell them which one you want, and they send you the right kind of stuff to mount it, right?
Yeah, the only thing I had to get myself was just some longer bolts to go through the plates. I noticed on a lot of them they actually mounted, through the side of the back of the pedal. Where mine, the 3D mounted went over the top of the pedal, and then the pedal plate sat on the front of it.
Another question. Now you're the king of base shakers, as I call it, and you've done a lot with base shakers and butt kickers. If you're somebody like Donnie who doesn't have any kind of vibration, would you recommend this over his first butt kicker?
Oh yeah, I would definitely go this route, and they're quite a bit cheaper too. I think they're they're $120 or something shipped.
Yeah, I can't do the base shakers where I'm at. I'm on the second floor of my house, and right next door is my bedroom, where my wife would be at night. So when I saw these, I was at this sim coach's shop a couple weeks ago, and I asked Lawrence about them, and he ran on to the other side of the shop, came back, and he already had a set of these attached to some of his pedals. And he was working on. He didn't like the wire that comes down, so he's working on a way that he can make it look nicer in a way. But he's going to buy a bunch. So for sim coach users of these of this platform, the Sim 3D, this Rumble kit, and he's going to sell. And he's already worked out with, I guess, the Sim 3D folks over in the UK that he'll sell them on this side for the sim coach guys, so they don't have the lag time of shipping and whatnot.
Whoa. This is a nice little add-on for not a lot of money. Like you said, it's cheaper than a simple butt kicker, and probably gives a lot of value. Like David is always talking about that wheel spin, that wheel squeaking noise.
Yeah, I have. I just use the iRacing controls instead of SimHub or whatever, and I have the engine turned down as low as I can get it, and the wheel slip turned all the way up, and it's pretty easy for me to tell through my seat when the rear end is going to let go.
Yeah, I just found it was everything that I've done and practiced with and experimented with, they especially on an 80/20 rig, I've played with mounting the butt kickers everywhere because I could never really get a really good feel to them until I ended up isolating them all with rubber and stuff from the rest of the rig, and that works pretty good. But for some reason, when it's coming directly through your feet, it's I think it gives you more awareness. At least that's what I found.
Well, I'm just thinking, you have the bottom of your foot, usually not in a shoe. Most people are wearing socks. You're making direct contact with that pedal plate, and that shaker thing or vibrator thing is right on the back of the pedal plate. So it's like literally almost making a direct connection with you.
Plus, it was as you started to get more wheel slip, you were getting more vibration. So you could start getting into the throttle, and you could feel it starting to vibrate. And if you kept going, it was getting stronger, and you could feel the back of the car, starting to get squirrely on you. So it was definitely, dead on to what I was feeling.
All right, I got this one on my list.
Well, I don't have this next one on my list because I'm already covered on VR, but there's a new Quest Pro VR headset that's been revealed. Meta has released the specs for it, and I don't really remember the specs from comparing one to another, but it's one of those things that just kind of irks me about going this route especially for sim racing. Battery life 1 to 2 hours, and I've even heard that you can't even keep the thing up when it's plugged in. It will still die. It can't draw enough power.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't draw power. If you link it to a CPU, it will not charge it. So yeah. So whether you're plugged into a computer or running it without any cables at all, you will not be able to charge it while you're playing with it.
I had an ad come up last night for it. It's $1,500 for this unit.
Yeah, it's not a good option for sim racers, I don't think. Period.
Well, that's why we're mentioning it. So don't be a fool and buy this thing.
Yeah, no, for $1,500, they need to do better.
What's the typical battery life for you guys?
I don't run on batteries.
Well, we don't use batteries.
That's the whole point.
You only need batteries for the standalone units like the Quest that can be used without any wires attached to it all. It's really nice if you play play the games that are on Oculus or Quest's website, and you can play for an hour or two. One of those games. You don't have to worry about wires getting in your way or anything like that. But once you connect this to a computer, it kind of loses the biggest selling point, in my opinion, for this is that it can be run without any wires, and you still have to worry about the battery life and all that stuff. So the resolution is 1800 by 1920, which is 3.5 megapixels per eye, which is not super high. I think it's higher than the original Quest, the Quest 2, but it's not as high as any of the HPs or any of the high-end headsets for computers, and it only maxes out at a 90 hertz refresh rate, which is which is okay, but it's not anything that a $1,500 headset would have. The only other thing that I see that it has is the pancake lenses, which are a little bigger than the Fresnel that a lot of the headsets use, and the old Quest 2 also uses, which does have a little bit clearer picture. But again, I mean, I don't see the value for this for what they're asking for it in hardly any way.
Well, here's the big thing about this. Sorry, Steve. The battery life, 1 to 2 hours. Even if you don't sim race, if you're spending $1,500 on this thing, I'm thinking you're going to want a little bit more than 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah, so my son has the Quest 2, and you actually can get a separate head strap that has a backup battery in it, which does increase the life of the battery. Almost doubles it really, but I mean, that's another $100 or $150. Who knows how much it'll be on this headset? So that's extra money you got to put in to get that extra time. And it's not like a battery you can just swap out. It's built into the device. You can't just swap it out and put a new battery in. Once it's dead, it's dead.
Yeah, I think the resolution's exactly the same as what I looked on the Quest 2.
So yeah, so it's just the lenses that are different.
Right, we got Ryzen versus Intel. PC Guide compares the offerings in a recent article on their website, and I was just perusing this, and one of the big questions, which one's going to be faster, the Ryzen 7000 or the Intel Core 13th Gen? And they're saying that the Intel is going to be faster at the 6 gigahertz, while the Ryzen line is slated to be around 5.7 gigahertz. So is Intel still the chip you have, for iRacing?
I think it's still based on, single core performance, but I think it also depends on the architecture of the chip. I forgot what they called it. Is like IP something that actually is what they kind of conduct their speed tests on, as far as for single CPUs. It's not just on gigahertz. So I think the Ryzen chip might be a little faster in that respect.
iRacing is not stuck on single core anymore like it used to be. They have ported a lot of the stuff that's separable into different cores. I think the sound actually runs in a different core. There's quite a few things that they've been able to move to other cores. So it's not stuck on just a single core. That being said, it still may be a big factor on having that fastest process when you're dealing with so much geometry, right? But it's not just a single core process like it used to be.
Yeah, it's the actual engine that runs, on the single core. The other ones. So when you're actually overclocking your CPU, you can see you'll have cores that are running faster than other cores. So you can actually direct iRacing to run, on that core for the main engine, the EXE, and then it can use the other cores to run the sound and the other. I think it uses 2 other cores at this point.
And who's working on a build right now? I mean, man, it's expensive to build a computer, and you're trying to buy all the latest stuff. Man.
We're going to see a computer a little later on that's not a part of the video, but it's in the video, and I got super excited. Maybe next year. I'm not sure.
All right, Tony, you are our do-it-yourself guy. Check out this Can You Build It Better?
Yeah. This comes from a Facebook group by Kevin Dunphy. He says, buddy came home yesterday to this creature his roommate had made for his Logitech G29. It took him 5 hours to build it. He's trying hard not to laugh, but he has to finish. He has 30 years experience as a carpenter. My buddy could not believe it when he arrived home to find his pedals something or other. We don't have access to the rest of that. My first question here is, I'm not sure what he was doing for, the 4.5 hours that it wouldn't take to build this, but what are we looking at? An ultra flimsy, it almost looks like an ironing board, just made from some scrap wood, held up by a couple of 2x4s with a good old, almost looks like a 1980s era lawn chair as your seat.
It looks like it's portable, and that's why it's got that top behind the wheel cutout. Looks like it folds down and then folds on top of the pedals, and he can just go hang it up somewhere potentially.
Yeah, that's probably what took so long. He had to cut that hole out so he could collapse it. Now, it kind of reminds me of the one rig review we did where the guy used an A-frame ladder just laying sideways on the ground and put the pedals in at the bottom and the wheel at the top. It's got that same look, but it's wood.
No flex.
I think they stole this picture from Scales, and Tony built this for Scales. That's what I think.
No, I don't know. Most times I get like, oh yeah, this is cool, the ingenuity and stuff like that, but we've just seen so many better, really bad builds. This just sits very low on the list, but hey, if it works, go racing.
So this reminds me, back in the 90s, there was a video game for PlayStation called Medal of Honor, and me and my dad used to play that on multiplayer. This was before LAN, and I guess there might have been LAN, who knows. But I built this because he sucked and I was really good, and if I saw him on the map, I can get him. But I built this plywood contraption where I'd put it at the middle of the break in the TV, and I sat underneath inside the cubby, and then he played the top half of the screen. That way I couldn't see his. But every time I see this picture, we've had it for a couple weeks now, just never made it into the script. But every time I see it, it just takes me right back to 1997.
All right, Mike, was it the track racer that you bought?
Tony got a track racer.
Tony has a track racer. Is that Rochette or Gross?
Tony Rochette.
We
Okay.
both have it. We both have the TR80.
All right. Well, you should
Oh,
take
that's
this
right.
next one then. So what do we got? A track racer talking about electronic hardware.
Yeah, it looks like Track Racer is going to make the jump into affordable load cell sim racing pedals and other peripherals.
Just
Yeah,
another company
doing a-
add to the list.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing pedals, handbrake, and a shifter.
Well, if that stuff works out anything like their rigs, it's affordable is nice, but it's going to be half decent quality. Like I know that Tony and I have both. Well, I bought my rig because of what he said about his, and the only difference between our rigs is I have a different seat only because the seat that normally comes with this just wasn't available at the time. But it's super solid. Like my rig don't move, and it's like one of the smaller ones that they offer. I've been extremely happy with this. So when they do come out with their, not necessarily the pedals, but shifters, I'm going to be looking at their shifters because I do need one.
They got a great reputation for sim rigs. I mean, their flagship is the T160, I believe it's called. But they have good stuff, and you certainly want to consider them. And it's neat that they're going to expand into other hardware. All right, I got this one. A story about our wheel. Cube Controls posted a letter to the community about the launch of their new CSX3 Formula wheel. And it was kind of a neat read, blog style, about some of the challenges with getting this wheel put together. Specifically, the little display that they picked to put in the wheel, they had problems with the manufacturer or the supplier of that. That supplier was actually purchased by a competitor, and so they had to figure out a different display manufacturer, in the middle of the design. And so it's just interesting if you're into sim hardware to read some of this stuff and see what happens kind of behind the scenes. They talk about they even interrupted production on their wheels because of the problem with the displays.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
Anyway, yeah, Cube Controls, it's a good wheel. We've seen all the reviews last week. It's a beautiful wheel. Just looks like mine, but it's got that display.
I just remembered. What were you worried about? What were you hearing about the display? Are they having problems with the display staying on or anything?
No, it was just a problem of getting them. They literally couldn't get them anymore because, somebody bought somebody and they had to figure out another solution.
Do any of you guys run any wheels with displays in them?
Well, almost all of. Well, no, because particularly for three of us, we run VR, so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on our team has one.
All right, we got a series of videos from Boosted Media, right? And it's all covering the 4090. He got an RTX 4090 in and got to try it out. I only had time to catch the first video, and I really should have watched the third one because it dealt with VR. But he dropped it in there and saw some huge improvements right off the bat in Assetto Corsa with everything maxed out. He saw some. He basically was able to run with about 50 FPS, and then cranked it back a little bit from that point. He compared the size of it to a 3090, and it is gargantuan. And the PC that he has with it plugged into is like It's obscene. It's just like a tall, like double tall tower, right?
That's what I
He's
mentioned
got two
earlier.
computers in one little box, basically. He's
It
got a
just
streaming computer. Yeah.
it just looks. I don't know. I thought it looked awesome. I don't know. I've only been in this computer game for 2 years now, and I haven't seen anything. I don't really seek it out, but I don't know. I thought it was cool. Maybe something to think about in the future, I guess.
So the second video is Dan Suzuki, and he tried it on all the different sim titles, and basically, FPS is up quite a bit, and I think he was saying 50 to 60% overall. And then Will Ford in the third video, he tried it on all the best VR goggles out there, like the Pimax 9K or whatever it is. Um, and he experimented with trying to get the frame per second at a point where he doesn't notice it, somewhere around 80 frames a second, and to keep it stable. And and he pretty much could get there with these advanced goggles, but not quite. And he was saying, well, if you have a 3090 Ti and you have these goggles, is it worth it to upgrade? And he said, probably not. You probably want to wait for the 4090 Ti, because it needs just a little bit more to be able to turn on all the bells and whistles and still have a good frame rate.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
said
Mike.
in iRacing is probably the least value. That's what I just got my 4090 card last week. I installed it, but I saw a huge increase over my 3080, and it's exact same size, so it fit right in. But I'm sure if you got 3090, you're good to go. But I was able to turn a bunch of my stuff back, way up. So I'm definitely holding 90 frames a second on what I've raced so far.
I can run almost
Yeah.
everything but heat haze, stuff like heat haze, with my 3090 Ti, and that's in the Reverb G2, and I also drop overlays in there and don't suffer any hit from that.
And by the way, he did these tests with the FFE turned off too, so he wasn't getting the frame rate boost by having the fixed fovulating turned on. So that's another consideration.
It was interesting with my 3080. I never really got much advantage with the FOV, but when or FFE, whatever it's called, but with the 4090, when I turned it on, I had probably a 30% increase in power, which was pretty impressive. I don't know why the difference between the 4090 and the 3080 card.
Hey Steve, did you have to upgrade your power source for that?
No, I've got 1200 watt
Okay,
Corsair, so I was good to go. I tried to get the Corsair. The Corsair makes an adapter that goes from the one plug to splits twice, but it came with a splitter that splits 4 times that I had to plug in. So that, I don't know. It must be pulling 300 watts from each one or something. I'm not sure.
What's the bottleneck, Steve, if it's not the card?
I think it's still CPU bound in ways. I've got the 5900X chip in mine, and I've got it overclocked. It's running about just under 5 gigahertz on all 12 cores, but I'm assuming that's where the issue still is. And it could be the drivers, and it could just be iRacing, because iRacing only uses, what is it, 8 gigabytes of memory. And somebody was talking in one of the forums that they thought if they boosted it up, that would hugely increase the performance. So
You're talking about the memory sliders and the settings?
yeah, correct.
All right.
I'm happy
Go
with
ahead.
it though, over the performance of the 3080. So
Sorry about that.
Nice.
The timing always causes us to step on each other a little bit because of that delay. So we will move on, though. The Moza wheel has been reviewed in the garage as we continue to talk reviews. This one was with Barry in the sim racing garage, and I was able to skip to the final part, and he was really impressed with it. Uh, it hasn't. I think if there was one negative that you could pick, it was that the display options are not customizable. You're just stuck with what it comes with.
I was kind of, remember Carl Gosling did a video on this wheel, and he was very negative about it, and he brought out several different issues that he found, poor craftsmanship and this and that. And interestingly, Barry didn't find those same things.
That Carl video, I remember us talking about it, and it was almost like he had an, I don't know, like he was targeting Moza for a specific reason, and he was kind of venting in that video. But then sometimes Barry doesn't, even though I find him to be the best, doesn't put wheels in categories sometimes. Like, you're not going to put this up with the wheel we're going to look at later with the Gomez wheel. You're just not going to put them in the same category and call them both good wheels at the end of the day. They're just different. They're just different build qualities. They're at a different price point as well. But yeah.
Also,
sorry.
How much is this wheel if we're talking class compared to the Gomez?
I think this is 400 or 500.
Okay, see, that's not terrible. I'm still super happy with just my little Fanatec Formula wheel where I got the pedals, the advanced pedals to it, because it's actually more featured than almost any of these wheels that you've been showing as far as the clutch options, because it's got 3 paddles on each side instead of 2, and I don't need the display.
Barry did say, that the buttons and encoders and everything were, plastic feeling and kind of cheap. He was kind of disappointed with those, but other than that, and he said the shifters were super loud too.
Clickety click click, yeah.
Yeah, they had some rubber base little rubber thing you could take the paddles off and put that behind, but he didn't test them with that to see if it quieted it down or not.
Were these 2-piece handles? Like, could you take the handles apart?
The grips.
Oh, the grips.
Yeah, the grips. Yeah.
Unsure.
No, the grips
were
so. They were glued on.
It's got a nice look to it, but for the price, I think it might be a good value, and I think that's what Barry said overall, basically.
But you can only use this with their base, right? You can't use this on any other base.
Right. I don't think you can. And that's part of the thing. I mean, guys, if you're going to buy a wheel like this, I think you need to buy something where you can move it from base to base, because even though you spend a lot of money on your base, it doesn't mean you're going to have it forever. Look at me. I bought the DD1 Fanatec, and I'm looking at changing. And boy, am I happy I bought a non-Fanatec wheel that can be converted to whatever wheelbase I want.
Yeah, it's $649 European, including VAT for the website.
Well, we keep hitting wheels, though. This is not a wheel. This is actually the base in the whole new system. We've talked about this for a while, but it looks like it's kind of finally out. And Sim Racing Corner has unboxed the Logitech Pro Racing Wheel.
Just a first impression. I mean, the boxing's...
Yeah, just a video of him going through the unboxing. I mean, like you said, Mike, the box was kind of neat. Did you watch the video all the way through?
I did. I think it just reminds me of what I think about this wheel. I mean, the only thing that I like about it is the fact that it is a direct drive, but the look of it, the angle of it, the way it angles at almost a 45-degree angle, I don't know if I would want to buy this.
It looks like it looks like it goes in either a go-kart rig or it's just literally for PlayStation games only, console games.
It was really
Looks
weird.
like a toy.
Really weird too. Also, it had wheel lock on it. Did you see that when he turned it? It locked side to
You
side.
can't even turn it. Yeah, it doesn't like spin indefinitely. What you mean, right?
Yeah.
For $1,100, not bad.
Somebody wrote it was the low end of the high end.
It's a toy. It's what it looks like. I'm sure that's what it feels like. But for like, yeah, $500, $600 too much.
So, would we make fun of a guy who bought one of these? Like, is there such a thing as sim equipment shame?
I wouldn't make fun of nobody. To each their own. But I mean, if you have the money to spend 1,100, just look a little harder.
I just hope
Maybe-
they don't buy it after listening to us.
Maybe if you only have a desk to hook it to and you want a direct drive, maybe it's low enough power where it won't rip your desk apart.
I mean, that's very true because I don't think it mounts very well to an actual chassis. So I think it's designed to mount to a desktop. So that's a good point there.
Yeah, it's got that clamp that Fanatec uses on all their stuff to clamp it to a desk. But it does have. I did notice in the video it did have mounting holes if you want to mount it to something with hardware.
But then you got that weird angle. I can't get over that.
Maybe it's made for that other rig we saw a little bit ago with the lawn chair.
There you go.
After you buy this, that's all you got money for is just an ironing board.
Okay, Brian. We know this one's going into your rig next, right? Is your neck up to it?
Yeah, this is posted from Frexsim on their I think it's a Instagram page. It's a sim rig which has a full 6 degree of freedom monocle cockpit, really nice cockpit, 6 degrees, and it's got 2 degrees for your neck. So yeah, it's got that halo that goes around your head like a helmet, sorta, and with the connection points, the wires that connect to devices that move your head or neck around as you're driving to simulate the G forces on your neck as you're going around the track. So yeah, these things scare the hell out of me, to be honest with you, because I could just feel getting like a stinger in your neck if this thing pulls you the wrong way or if it goes a little out of whack. You know, I'm just one kind of guy who doesn't like having my head twisted and turned around like that. But yeah, but it's possible, and Frexis makes it if you're interested.
Maybe if you really want the maximum immersion, or maybe if you're actually trying to use it to train. I follow some racers who post their exercise videos, and you'll actually see them doing neck raises with weights hanging from their head on a band.
Yeah, I understand that for football players and race car drivers, but just messing with my neck just churns me off. I don't want anything attached to my head that's gonna. I'm sure it's not gonna have enough force to snap my neck off, but I don't know. It just makes me a little nervous.
Pretty sure we've seen something very similar to this in one of the Saw movies.
The panic button's not going to do any good if you can no longer use your arms.
I'm more impressed by not the head contraption, but the whole movement, the motion system below. I mean, it's got that General Dynamics look to it, where it's got, you know, these big shocks, and it's kind of elevated seat up on these 3 different shocks that twisted, 6 DOF. The other thing that throws me off on this is his seat and him are moving, but his surround, like the cockpit surround and the wheel, all that's stationary. And so that must feel odd if everything around you is not moving, but you are. Is that kind of like a G seat, kind of, Steve?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because yeah.
The G seat's
Yeah, it
not
would
really
be.
moving; it's moving you.
G-seat
but-
doesn't
Yeah,
move. It's
just
just the pressure pads.
Yeah, it's just pressure pads. But watching this guy with this neck thing, I always think of my G belt. Sometimes when it turns on, it feels like it's going to strangle me. I'm afraid my wife's going to walk in here and find me dead from my belt.
It's better than in the closet.
Yeah, or tied to the Never mind.
And 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 another thing is, these drivers they're using such strong head restraints and head neck devices. They don't get a whole lot of neck movement anymore in these cars like they used to, just because of the Hans and the the seats with the wraparounds and stuff like that. I don't think the head gets as much movement as it used to. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
You'll just have to put a Hans on before you strap your head into a halo with wires.
But will you wear the fire suit? All right, it's time for some NASCAR iRacing Series results. And we went to Vegas, or some of y'all went to Vegas Friday. I'll kick it off with a report from Rochette that's really not his typical wordy response. Wrecked out.
Steven got a PGA BS. Not sure what that means.
Is that
Adam
a
was
golfing
wrecked
reference?
out. Oh, I know what that means. I wrote that in there for him because he said, "Hey guys, I can't make the race tonight because I'm playing some PGA 23." So he did. So that's why I wrote PGA BS. Donnie, how about you?
Yeah, no, it was miserable. I had a good car. I was actually enjoying my race, and I was passing the guy down the backstretch, and I just went up in front of him. And it was the worst. Nothing worse than causing your own wreck and taking another guy out with you. It doesn't happen very often. I felt super bad about it. I messaged the guy through the service, basically saying, I apologize and it's on me. But and I was having a good race going, and I just misjudged coming up in front of him, or I honestly don't remember how it happened. It's one of those unconscionable things that happened, and yeah, I'm pretty bummed out about it.
Right, Tom Dreiling was in your split. He was also wrecked out, but limped it home.
Yeah, I remember driving through his wreck. He was up in front of me, and yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. I just saw him spinning. I believe it was on the front stretch.
Now, me and Greg were in a split together, and poor Greg, poor Greg. It was horrible. I mean, he was leading laps. He was in control of the race. He was leading on the green-white checker, and he lost connection. The whole throughput fell to an unacceptable level thing. Horrible. I mean, right at the end of the race, I mean, he was going to win it. I mean, he was in position to win. Nobody was really challenging him. He didn't even lose connection in TeamSpeak at all. I mean, so it's one of those things, and you're like, I still have internet, so how did I lose connection to the server? Poor Greg.
That's a tough one. That really sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made it into your guys' race there, Mike, and I was waiting for it to get going, and obviously he just disappeared. But I guess that'd be our realms, broken transaxle or flat tire or blown motor. I guess is when you're
Hardware failure.
Down.
Maybe he blew a tranny.
Ooh. So I ran that race with him, and I started P24, but quickly worked my way forward. I stayed between 3rd to 12th basically all race. We pitted for fuel when others didn't, to make sure I didn't get caught out like I did earlier in the week. So like I was being ultra conservative on fuel. Every time, I was just making sure to top off, because I got burned on Wednesday real bad with fuel. And so it worked out good. I ended up taking podium P3. And so nice run for the week.
I would recommend that you use JRT though to decide when you're in a window or not, because it doesn't do that much good to top off when you're outside the window if it costs you a lot of track position.
Yeah, of course. But and I got burned on fuel again today by making a stupid decision I'll talk about later. All right, let's jump to Sunday Open. Steve Llewellyn, P1. Baby, me and Tom Dreiling should have been 1-2 in some way, but a bad caution caught him on pit road, put him a lap down, and never got another yellow. He was leading before and during the stops too. So more heartbreak for Tom, but Steve takes the win. Well done. And then Steve, your worst finish, I think, in this series so far.
Yeah, I started 25th. I didn't qualify, and it had a ton of cautions, 9 cautions for 36 laps, and then I got all the way up to third, taking your advice about just trying right sides only. It worked, so I gained a bunch of positions, and my car was super fast. And then on the second to last caution, man, I was hoping it was going to go green, and I had to pee. I had to pee so bad. That's why I looked up those catheters, those racing catheters, and so I went to the restroom, came back, and I was only a lap down, so I finished 19th.
I was looking at those catheters just now, and those tips look impressive.
Yeah, and they're sized. They says size does matter.
Oh, TMI.
Let's just get Depends as our sponsor for the results section, and it'll be a lot less painful. You know,
Have
there are
you ever-
people who actually do poker tournaments in Depends.
Have you ever sat in a dirty diaper? Do you remember?
I can't remember when I was a baby. No.
Go with the catheter.
Pair them
Okay.
with dude wipes, and you can smell the peppermint.
Sunday fixed. Early in the race, I got taken 3 wide while I was on the outside. I got pushed to the wall, 10 minutes damage. I did finish the race to try to salvage some IR. It was still P30. Ouch. Tyler, P14 after starting 20th. Decent race, but the aggressiveness going 3 wide was not pretty. Passing was difficult, and you really had to lean on someone to pass. Race ending was interesting as the yellow came out as the leader got the white. Was hoping the race would have finished then on to Homestead. Now, I was watching Tyler at the end of his race in Spartan, and I sent you guys the video in the chat. And this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. The leader, so I had it on slow motion. The leader takes the white, like you can see the Barney with the white flag waving it like crazy, okay? And he crosses the line and he drives another 100 yards past the line. And then you see on the fence the caution lights are green, and then they switch to yellow. He's 100 yards past the white, past the line, and the yellow comes out.
I think it's because the yellow, whether or not the white was out, it depends on when the incident started, not when it decides to throw the yellow. If an incident has started before he crosses the white flag, the logic, I guess, is deciding, okay, got to throw the yellow.
They got to tweak that a little bit. It is too much. I mean, we were hoping, I think Tyler was hoping that, we were getting the white, and it ended up going another, green-white checker because of that. It screwed him. All right, let's move on to Homestead. Wednesday Open. David, P15.
Yeah, with my iRating plunge, I was car 30 in this one, and still just kind of a mid-pack driver. I feel like I've lost a step, but it was a sloppy race. I took the wrong coin flip on the last caution, trying to save a set of tires, and then we ran green, which made a few people finish ahead of me that probably wouldn't have, but still, it was managed to stay out of the wrecks, and so it was good to just kind of get through a race without any stupidness.
All right, Tyler, P14. Too many cautions. Had one decent green flag run, which helped the car set. Worked the high line most of the race. Was able to race with teammate Kyle for a good bit. Always a good time with the team. Kyle ran, I don't know where he finished. Steven Steve, you got a P2.
Yeah, I didn't qualify. I started 20th, and then there was like 6 quick cautions, and then we had a green flag run for 54 laps. I was second, then somebody went in. I don't know how he did it, but he ended up on fresh tires or something. I don't know. and he came out and passed me for second place. And so I was in third place. I was fine with it till the caution came out, and then I went in for tires, and it was a green, white checkered restart. And there was a bunch of guys that stayed out because they had probably got tires like 10 or 15 laps, 20 laps before that. I don't know, but it just opened up, and I hauled ass. And the first and second place cars, they were battling, they were banging back and forth. So I just kind of sat back to watch them, and the first place guy ended up running the second place guy out into the back stretch. And when he did that, then I took second place, and I almost beat the first place guy. It was like, I don't know, maybe a foot, but it was a fun race.
Oh, you got some great finishes you've stacked up here.
Hey, you guys are helping me a lot. You know, racing out here in the open, it's totally different than doing any league racing. That's for sure.
It's a different animal for sure. All right, so this might have been maybe my worst race ever. I was not pleased. Lap 1, I got loose and spun out all by myself. People wrecking all around me because of it. I didn't have any damage. Ended up restarting 13th. Got up to about lap 17. I got loose again, and it completely destroyed the car. I walked out of there embarrassed. I caused the first 2 cautions. I wrecked a bunch of people. Basically, I popped a set in that I hadn't practiced. I had practiced with a set. I ended up going with a different set at the last minute, which usually I have no problem doing. I'm easy running other people's stuff, but it didn't agree with me apparently.
You know what you need? Some Sim 3D pedal rumble kit.
On my list now. All right, then Thursday Open today I ran P18. Of course, I reverted to the old set that I've actually practiced with Tuesday night in AI. Ended up P18. My goal to finish the race, and I did do that. I did manage my goal. I did run as high as 8th. The people who pitted on the first caution at lap 6 could actually make it on one more stop. I couldn't believe it. So I had lost a race last week because of, pitting on lap 12 would have made it the same situation where you could make it on one more. And so this week I'm thinking about that, but I'm thinking, man, lap 6, it's too soon. They can't make it from here on one. They need to make it to like at least lap 10 or 11. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna stay out. Well, sure enough, it stayed green, and these guys got a one up on everybody. The guys that had popped off on that lap 6 caution, and by saving fuel, they were able to make it. So that kind of put me back in the running order because I wasn't one of those people. I was a lap down. I ended up taking a wave around at one point, but yeah, didn't have anything else. P18. Donnie, you ran with me on a rare Thursday afternoon, P7.
Yeah, P7. I used the same set you did. I didn't get any practice with this car this week, so just going for it. I think I took the 10 clicks out David had mentioned on one of them, but yeah, I had good middle and long run speed. It was fine. I believe it was uneventful for the most part. I think we had a couple cautions, but we just had lappers all race, racing like their life depended on it. I hate saying move out of the way, whatnot, if you're a lap car, but I mean, they would race you, they would cut your nose off, they would run you up into the wall, and I don't know if it was them not being able to control the car or what, but it was just annoying. And then obviously it burns your tires out when you're trying to get around them, work a little harder, but that is racing, I guess. Other than that, it's my highest finishing position in the NIS series so far, so I'll take it.
You weren't going to burn out your tires if you went 10 clicks.
Let's talk about 10 clicks. I mean, David, you had put in the chat, do this and that to the set on your first pit stop, and so I was telling Steve was in a practice. I wasn't in the car.
You already
I'm looking at the
Here's
chat.
the thing. I got to interrupt you. You already said it wrong. That's the problem. I didn't say.
Well, what happened? Well, you said like do 10 clicks out of the left or this to the right, And I was telling Steve this, and Steve, you just did it. You just put in the changes, and you stopped, and you went out there and ran it, and you're like, it's loose, loose, loose.
It was loose as hell. I was thinking, if their cars are getting this tight, I must be driving like really bad or slow or something. If they need to loosen up this much to get around the track.
So
Basically,
apparently, David, 1 click was the answer, right? Not 10.
Well, no. One of the instructions was for the garage. The other
10 in the
instruction
garage.
was for the pit stop. 10 in the garage, one on the track.
Ah, I see.
And you just
I just blew
kinda
it.
failed to read the instructions correctly, as the teacher says.
Well, we know Steve can drive a loose car. All
Did
right,
you get a
other
chance-
racing.
I'm sorry, did you get a chance to undo it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we had to undo it and put it back. Yeah.
I ran about 30 laps and I went in and did it because it never got any better.
All right, other racing. I ran Chris McGuire hosted Supercars at Michigan.
Yes.
It was a great race. I missed the big wreck and ended up P5. And these races, there's like a big old pack of cars. At some point, in that first few laps,
Well,
half
boys.
or most of the cars will wreck out. And if you're one of the few that remain, you can race it out for the win. So that was pretty fun. Then I ran official Skip Barber at Sonoma. I got clipped from a wreck in lap 1. I had to pit for a meatball flag to get my fast repair, and I came out 9th out of 11.
No,
I actually worked my way back
I
up
might
to
have a little cold,
P5.
but yeah.
My fastest lap was pretty quick for me, but I'm still 3 seconds off the leader. Wow. And with that, we'll jump to final thoughts. Brian McCubbin.
So yeah, I had a rough date. I was trying to race with you and Tyler Sunday night. Everything was fine when I was in the practice section, and then when I jumped into the race, my ping went through the roof, and everybody was telling me that I was, jumping all over the place. But usually, when you have a bad signal like that, you usually see the other cars like disappear off the track as you're losing connection. But I didn't see any of that. The cars looked fine. It's just they could not. My car was bouncing all over the place. I tried to reset it and everything. I actually jumped out of the race and hopped back in under yellow, and it did the same thing. And at the same time, my TeamSpeak was working because I was able to talk to you and Tyler. Everything was working. For some reason, it was just the iRacing that was causing the problem. And now that I hear Greg's story that he didn't have any other problems with his internet, just with the iRacing, I'm wondering if there's not something going on like that. I mean, I know my internet's been kind of goofy to begin with, but this seemed like it was something with iRacing because I wasn't having any other issues. So I don't know. I haven't tried it yet since then, so we'll try it again this weekend. Try to get a good run in, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's really hard to swallow because what can you do about it?
Nothing at all.
All right, David Hall. Final thoughts.
Yeah, good to be back. Marching season's almost over. We have a couple of games left. We're done with contests, and so things will slow down a little bit. I'll get a little bit more racing in. Of course, now gigs and things are kicking in. COVID's finally, at least in this area, not shutting anything down, so everything's full swing. So I'll be in and out depending on whether or not I have any gigs. Racing-wise, I definitely am in a big slump. I dropped all the way to 3,200. Some of it from just not having good finishes, some of it from bad luck. And it's all been going downhill since I choked away that Bristol race. So hopefully I can get out of this funk. I've climbed back up a little at Miami with a few good finishes. We'll see.
All right, season's almost over. Donnie Spiker.
Yeah, season might be over for me. I think I ran my last B race of the season, and my last NIS race this week. I go radio silent tomorrow. I without cell reception till Sunday night. I got a busy week next week, and then following week I'm traveling out to your neck of the woods for the championship weekend. But I'm looking forward to getting off the oval and hitting the road series. I plan on doing a couple of those, and I'm looking forward to that.
Very good. Greg Hector's final thoughts.
Just about to get ready here for a league race. Found out that my league race over the winter time that I run normally on Thursday nights is moving to Monday nights, so that's going to be a conflict of interest of what we signed up for the winter series this fall. So I'm going to have to drop my road racing for the winter series. So I look forward to doing the winter series with everybody here, get the last couple weekends of racing out of the way, and go from there. But I'm pretty bummed about having a really good setup and a really good race. I mean, like me and you raced really well the other night on Friday, and to have that server drop me on a green-white checkered was really hard to swallow for the night. But yeah, shit happens.
You had that race won, Greg, for sure. All right, Steve Thompson, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank all you guys for having me here, having me on the podcast, and helping me figure out how to race out in the wild open. You guys have all been a great help and great support. You know, I don't know how any of this stuff works, so my goal is to try to get up to like 2,200 so I can race with some of you guys in the next year's races. So I'm gonna work on that over the winter, and I'm looking forward to racing in the winter series with you guys doing a league race. So I appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, the winter league is going to be on Monday nights, and Steve and Donnie are joining the regular crew there. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, Tony Groves, final thoughts.
Well, I had some kind of bad news. Lisa came to me a couple weeks ago and let me know that she's just not enjoying iRacing. She doesn't like the pressure she feels she has racing against other people. So that part kind of sucks. I mean, we're still going to do some racing and stuff, but the good news to that is she had the better video card in her computer for running triples. So I quickly stole that and stuck that into my computer. So, you know, silver linings everywhere else. Other than that, racing, that has not been on my plate. Unfortunately, I've just been too darn busy. Got a promotion at work, so that's been taking up a lot of time. But I'm kind of liking the sounds of that, the winter NIS series. I don't race those cars very often, and would like to do a lot more of that. So that looks like a great excuse to fulfill that need or fulfill that want. So hopefully we can get some sets happening, and I'll do my best to do some racing with you, Mike.
I think the question is, you know, are we going to lose iRacing or gain it? You know,
I think that's how she suckered you into marrying her, by racing with you, and now she give it up.
That could have been it. That could have been it. Although I did just send her a link to those pedal rumble things there, so that might help smooth over, you know, my hurt feelings for her quitting iRacing.
Has she tried AI?
Yeah.
Pressure AI.
Well, see, here's the thing though. Like with AI, then we gotta rent the room if we want to race together. So we still have NASCAR heat, and you know, it's not the sim, it's a game. But we can either race it on the rigs or just up on the couch. Still have a great time doing that. So it's something.
All right, my final thoughts. Wow, you know, after winning 3 times this year and the NIS Open, including Charlotte Roval, Bristol Dirt, you'd think I might know what I'm doing, but boy, I raced that race Wednesday night. I look like an amateur out there. I mean, first 2 cautions was me. I ran away with my tail between my legs, as they said. But it's a humbling sport, you know, that you can run it so good one week, and then you go on down the schedule and you're at the next event, you're just crap. But you know, I always said if it was easy, nobody would do it. So maybe that's what we're doing. That's why we're all here. So with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.